What a beautiful ball. Now it's Cristiano Ronaldo with a chance maybe to seal it, and he has taken it.
Lahm in all kinds of space. Lahm, Muller through. Muller could be embarrassing. It's three. Tony Kroos.
Olivier Giroud.
Barkley's found Klein with a speedy burst, and that's terrific from Vardy. Oh, what a goal by Jamie Vardy.
Hello and welcome to #TFHP Euros. It's the Football Hipsters podcast. I am your host, Kris, and here we are once again to talk about football just for a change. I have got three people with me this evening. I've got Drew from the regular crew. Good evening, Drew.
Hey, Kris. What's up, guys?
All good, my friend, all good. We should say you're doing tonight's pod from a different headset, so apologies. It's not Drew's fault. He's at a different location today, so but he's got plenty to talk about. So apologies for any audio issues anybody gets. And we've also got two French followers who are going to do a duel this evening. Hopefully, there will be fireworks. I've got welcoming back again, Rich Allen and Lana as well. Good evening to you both.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Right, let's jump straight in two-footed, as if it was, I can't think of a dirty player, but anyway, two-footed straight in at the top. Let's start with the French game. So, Republic of Ireland 1, France 2. Rich, I'll start with you. They got there in the end, didn't start particularly well. What did you make of France? Because it was a tale of two halves once again, was it not?
It was. From the dreadful to the sublime, it seemed. It was not an enjoyable first 45 minutes. Nothing was working, apart from Kante charging around like a headless chicken at times. No one seemed to be particularly interested, let alone playing well. So it was horrible. And then, of course, to concede a penalty so early on, a really unnecessary penalty as well. Plenty of time for the defenders to clear it, didn't clear it. And then Pogba, rather clumsily, sort of drags his heels against the Irish attackers. Silly, didn't really need to be given. Evra perhaps could have been a little closer. He seemed he'd no idea where he was. But then to go behind, you just thought, please, not like this. Because nothing was going their way. Passes were going astray. There was no urgency to them. There was no sense of you're a goal behind and you're not playing well. Sort something out. So as a first half, it was. Well, we saw probably the worst and the best from France in this game. So.
I was just going to pick up on what you said there. That is a perfect way of summing it up. The best and the worst, wasn't it? All encapsulated in one half of football, almost, or well, over two halves, I suppose you could say. But just bizarre. Like, what's going to take them to spark? We'll come on to another team that sparked later on. But Lana, what was your sort of perspective on it as well? Because obviously you're following now. Our beloved Sweden have gone home, cry, sob. But what do you make of France? Because you've been critical of how they set up. To a degree, and they changed things second half, and all of a sudden it looked all right again. So what is going on?
Well, everyone knows my views on the Champs. I mean, it's not pretty, that's for sure. But in the first half, I just wanted to die. And I was like, please put me out of this misery. We never, it's usually when you start a game poorly, you get going after all. But it was like we were consistently shit for 45 minutes. And like Rich said, no one picked up. Like, no one was like, okay, I am going to, take it on me to lead the team. No one. Like, there's no leaders on that team. And you would expect that from maybe Evra. Actually, only Evra when you think of it. Matuidi to a certain degree. But Kante was just there running around. Like, he cannot pass for the life of him. And people rate him, and I just don't get it. I mean, sure, he's a good player, but that's about it. When you think of the game against Switzerland, our midfield was so good. We were playing so well in that second half. Pogba was amazing, even if we didn't score. But when we got to the second half, with the necessary change of bringing Coleman on and taking off Kante, people were talking about how he's on a yellow, but I mean, come on, he wasn't actually that impressive. But as that change was made, we started to, we played Pogba in that regista role, as the Italian fans call it, and it just started to click. We were so much better, and we could have scored more, in my opinion, if our shooting boots were on. But we were lucky, and we've cruised through the Euro so far being lucky because we've just been awful. When you look at the players we have, we should be doing so much better, but we're not. And I think our luck is about to run out soon.
Yeah, we'll talk about who they could potentially draw. I do want to get you guys debating a couple of things, but I just want to ask Drew something on this as well. Drew, with the pressure that's on, obviously, a host nation performing sort of at this level of tournament, and obviously all the big teams are starting to click, or seemingly are starting to click, all but France. And they got better second half. But do you think it was more about how Ireland kind of fell away and almost wilted, or were you genuinely impressed with France second half today?
I think it's a bit of both. I don't think you can say that France is firing on all cylinders at all. Maybe one at the most. I don't know. I just feel like Deschamps, I still think he doesn't know what his best 11 is and in what formation to use it. And I think that until he really has a clear indication of what direction he wants to take in regards to tactics, who he wants to use and in what fashion, then maybe you're not going to see the best from the France team, honestly. And I think that's unfortunate because I think the level of players that they do have, whether there's a lot of us who agree or disagree on who should be playing and where and what capacity, but when you look at the side, 1 to 23, they're still an incredibly very, very strong side. There's some questions at the back, sure, but I just don't think this is the best we've seen from France yet, and I don't know if it's going to be enough moving forward against the stronger teams. I think if they play this way against a better team, I think they're going to be out in the quarterfinals, so we'll see.
Yeah, definitely improvement needed. I want to just get sort of a bit of debate going between Lana and Rich at this point, because you guys talk sort of regularly, obviously Rich with FFW, and obviously Lana's quite a regular contributor to your show, sort of whether it be via Twitter or, I see you guys debating a lot. So I kind of want to almost just turn the podcast over to you guys and just let you have a bit of a natter. Lana, do you want to kick us off? Because you and Rich agree on some things and disagree on others. So what do you agree on? If anything.
We agree on Evra. I think most people do. I think we disagree on Pogba, Kante as well. I think, at the start, we were disagreeing on Sissoko, but I'm slowly, starting to agree with him, especially after seeing the last game. And I was actually hoping that he would come on today. Not 90 minutes later, but at the start. But,
overall, there's things you do kind of see eye to eye on then in that degree. So, Rich, you said to me earlier on you had a couple of things you wanted to debate. So the floor is yours.
Pressure. Well, on the Pogba front, it's not that I don't like him. It's not that I don't think he's a good player. It's evident he still just has a lot to learn. And we saw again in the space of 90 minutes, we saw him have an incredibly poor first 45 minutes, of which he wasn't alone. But, the onus is going to be on him. He is the sort of poster boy, or going into this tournament anyway, he was the poster boy of the team.
But so was Griezmann, so was Martial and Coleman. Why is it that only Pogba gets the blame? He's being made the scapegoat. This is just like, the Nasri, the Zidanes, and obviously the media is putting so much pressure on him, and people don't seem to get. Everyone's saying he's world class, which he's not. I've said it from day one. He's still very young. He has so much pressure on himself. And I said it 3 years ago when Conte was playing him in one role and Deschamps in another role. You cannot confuse the boy as much as you are. This season, it's been his best season at Juve, not just in terms of numbers and stats and all that, but he's evolved so much. Like, he's actually had to take on the role of Vidal and Pirlo, especially with Khedira being out at the beginning and Marquisio as well. And he's just starting to learn what it's like to be an all-around good midfielder. But you cannot play him. out of position just to accommodate Matuidi, who we've all seen has had a poor season, and arguably the second half of the last season before this one as well. I mean, I don't get it. Why would you play him on the right when he's better on the left? He's understanding with Evra is much better. He tracks back as well. You saw it in the second half today how much better he was.
That's true. No, and I totally agree. He isn't playing in his best position, so you aren't going to get the best from him. But if he's as good a player as so many are saying, both those that see him week in, week out in Serie A and those that don't, I expect that little bit more from him, like we saw in the second half. And I really like that change in formation, the sort of almost a 4-2-4 formation, which I think is the way they should probably look at going.
We should be playing that
into
formation.
The quarterfinals. Exactly, yeah, because they don't have the players to sit back and let teams come at them. They need to be an counter-attacking side, and that 4-2-4 formation ensures that you can get the best out of Pogba. Matuidi's second half was absolutely brilliant.
He was,
and the change from the player that we've seen, not only the first half but the rest, the previous games in the tournament and probably most of last season as well. That was really back to his best, where he's full of energy, tackling, all over the place, in a good way. Obviously, he's been all over the place in a bad way in the last few games. And obviously then that allows you to play Griezmann through the middle, which without a doubt is where he should be playing for France. But for my mind, you can't not play Giroud.
No, but you saw it today when you have that runner off Giroud, how well he does. And okay, he didn't score, but you see how much he offers when you play Griezmann centrally. We need to be able to switch formation during a game to, if a team attacks us, where we have to sit back or we go on the counterattack. But the thing is, Deschamps isn't tactically good enough, compared to the likes of Allegri, for instance, where he can change a formation during the game. And this is also my issue with Deschamps when these friendlies have been, because Drew was saying he doesn't know what his best number 11 is. He knows what the back four is, obviously. I mean, Evra could be conceding 40 penalties. He's still not going to be benched. Digne is still not going to play. Sane could be shit and crossing balls left and right. Jale is still not going to play. So that back four is set. Why won't you play the likes of Umtiti and Mangala, let them have a run? If, Lord forbids, you have Rami being sent off or suspended as he was today. Koscielny was also a yellow away. Why would you take that risk and then come to the media later on and say, but we've been unlucky with injuries. So has so many other teams. We've left out better players at home. And, when you were saying that we don't have someone to sit back while the other attack, that's because we left our best players at home while we picked up, players like Kante and Schneiderlin to sit on the bench. If you look at, as a whole on all the French players who've performed this season, there's so many who deserve to be in that squad over the ones we have today. And it pisses me off because I know we're more than good enough to go straight to the final, but we're not. We're going to go out to a Germany 92nd minute goal from Hummels as we did in the World Cup 2014. I'm still bitter about that game, by the way.
We did see, though, I think that again, this whole game seemed to be a contrast of best and worst, because I didn't totally agree with the starting 11 that Deschamps put. I don't think, I will admit it now, Matuidi should not have been in that starting 11. That should have been Sissoko. Matuidi hasn't performed. Sissoko came in the Switzerland game and played really, really well.
So did Kabay. People seem to overlook Kabay in that game. I thought he was brilliant. I thought, he was doing Kante's role, but he can actually pass.
Well, yeah, he did have a good game. We will then see. Well, I'm going to presume that Deschamps will go back to a 4-3-3 formation for the quarterfinal. We will therefore see almost certainly Kabay, I think, come in to replace Kante. But the halftime came. Deschamps obviously gave them the talk. Evra, to be fair, it sounds like he also chipped in as the sort of senior member of that team. Um, and it made the difference. Deschamps seems to be quite a reactive manager. And for all his, the issues that people have with, his constant sort of faith in players that perhaps shouldn't be in the squad, he is able to I tweeted it earlier, he's able to give the team, a kick up the arse that's really needed at half time. My issue is, let's have a team where you don't necessarily need to give them that huge kick because, to turn something around. So I'm obviously delighted to get the win. There's positives that we can take, but there's still some negatives that I would have hoped by now could have been ironed out. And I think, as Lana said, I think you don't pick a squad of 23 players if you don't vary it up a little bit in the friendlies pre-tournament, because we have a situation now where Mangala or Umtiti are going to come in for a quarter-final, relatively unprepared for international. Well, Umtiti, very unprepared. He's not played before. Mangala, very few caps as well. So I'm not going to say Deschamps is the perfect manager, but I do think when he needs to get the team going, when the chips are at their lowest, he's able to sort of do the necessary to get them going and ultimately get the result. So they are going to have to be better. They can't afford to have another bad 45 minutes in the quarterfinal. It's going to have to be, on the ball from minute one. I would like to see him continue with the 4-2-4 formation, regardless of who it will be in the quarterfinals, because that is the formation I think France will play, and it enables you to get far more out of more players than sticking with a 4-3-3, where you're sort of hindering certain play. You're not going to get the best from Griezmann sticking him out on the wing. He does operate so much better through the middle. You're not going to get necessarily the best from Pogba if you're going to continue playing Matuidi as well. And similarly, it seems to be, can Matuidi and Kante play together? Because it seems to be that ever since Kante's come into the team, Matuidi's form has dropped off as well. So there's questions still to be asked. It's not ideal going into a quarter-final, but with Kante out, with that might enable Matuidi to continue his good form.
It's a blessing in a disguise, actually. I had, what's his name? He was on the podcast last time, where I actually got into a bit of a Twitter, not argument, but discussion, but I was on the verge of blocking him, where he says that Kante is France's best midfielder. And then I'm left wondering, what does he define as a best midfielder? Because in my opinion, he's just a workhorse, and Matuidi is just a workhorse. We don't need two workhorses on the pitch together. You either play Kante or you play Matuidi. You cannot play them together. And it's, when you play these two together, it enables Pogba. If you take out one of them, it brings out the best in Pogba and Matuidi, as you said. I mean, we looked so much better today in second half, and it's a reason for that. And why are we asking questions going into a quarterfinal? He's had 3 group stages games. He's had the game today. He's had how many friendlies before that? And I'm just left wondering, a manager who's managed so many clubs is like, we're asking questions when we shouldn't. We're the host nation. We should be prepared. I mean, I get we had injuries and all that, but so has everyone else, and they look far more prepared than we do. We were struggling against Ireland today. God forbid we play Germany, and we're screwed.
That's good. I enjoyed that. A good back and forth, and I want to. That's a perfect segue actually, because I want to bring Drew back into this part as we kind of shift into Germany. And the first thing I'm going to ask you, Drew, before we go into the talk about Germany's performance today, based around what Rich and Lana have said there about France, did Germany solve their problem today by dropping the quote-unquote false 9 in Mario Götze and reverting to Mario Gomez? Because they clicked today, and they look like the Germany everyone seems to think should be here. So was it as simple as just one tactical switch for their victory today?
I literally wrote about this yesterday. And I wrote that Germany has to drop the false 9. Germany's been playing with a center forward in the mold of Gomez for the last 2 decades. And I don't know if people understand that it's worked for them. for the last 2 decades. This is what they have to stick to, because when you play a center forward like Gomez, it allows the attacking three behind him to play off of him. And that's also a system that brings the best out of someone like a Toni Kroos, who they can play that long ball that he's so good at. He can play it to Gomez, who can then knock it down for Julian Draxler, or for Thomas Müller, who can make the runs off the center forward, and that's where they thrive at club level. That's why you see Thomas Müller scoring 20 goals, despite Lewandowski scoring 28 goals. You know, these are the things that Jurgen Klopp has to bring the best out of his players for. Simple changes. And then for me, it also allows Germany that second pass option that they don't have when they play Mario Götze as a false nine, because in that scenario, they're so entrenched at playing that build-up style. But when you have Gomez, you can then play that long ball to bring the center forward into play, who can hold his marker off, who can lay someone off, or he can make those near post runs like we saw today that someone like Götze won't make. So I do think the best way forward is for Germany to go back to, I guess, somewhat what you could call their roots. But Germany has created more clear-cut, high-quality chances when Gomez was playing than when Götze was playing, and it's not really a rocket science that that's the way forward for them.
Yeah, some excellent points. And I want to stick with you, obviously, for the Germany game, because I saw this, but a couple of us didn't. So, overall, Germany, 3-0 victory. Slovakia, it's hard to sort of establish how good or bad they were. Obviously, they looked decent against England defensively, but an early goal, and they didn't really offer a lot, never really looked like they were coming back into it much. Emmanuel Neuer, I think he tipped one over, but they never really looked in any danger, Germany. So is this it? Can we now sort of comfortably say that the Germany we expected to see are here, and do you rate their chances of pushing on from here and going potentially all the way?
You can't go into a Euro and say Germany aren't one of the heavy favorites. You just look at their record in the competition, and you know they're always going to at least make the semifinal. They have that winning pedigree, and they always improve with each performance as the tournament goes on. They're better now than they were the last match, and in the last match they're better than they were before that one. So, I mean, it's not that Jurgen Klopp is necessarily making all these tactical changes that are, you know, mind-boggling decisions, but the players are growing into every match, and that's what's important. And other people are coming into their own. You saw a much better Draxler than you did in the group stage. You know, Gomez, who by himself isn't the greatest center forward, but he fits what they need. He's getting a little bit better. Kroos, the way he's been playing has been stellar. You know, and you see the back four is now doing a bit better as well. And then the introduction of Kimmich has been fantastic, and a lot of people are saying it's kind of a throwback to Philipp Lahm, and I wouldn't put him at that level yet, but he offers a lot more to the Germans tactically on the pitch than what you would see from a Hoeneß or a Mustafi, and I think that's another thing that Germany missed, because when you had Hoeneß there, his supply and his runs forward into the final third from that right-hand side, they were limited. So then you put added pressure on Jonas Hector to be that wide source of creativity on the left, but they didn't have it on the right because Müller always tucks in on the right. And they didn't have someone like a Khedira or Toni Kroos who would tuck right. They need to stay centric because that's where they're pulling the strings. So Kimmich making that overlapping run brings something that Germany was missing before he started playing. And I think that change is just as important as Gomez. So I think they're going to keep getting better. And because they have that pedigree in tournaments, because they have the experience as well, you know, reigning world champions, again, the way they've been playing in so many Euros in recent history, I think even if you don't want to make them the heavy favorite, you have to say that you would be shocked if they didn't make the final at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to do something sort of slightly different, which we haven't done this pod before, but I'm going to give you all roughly a minute to justify why you think your followed teams can win the Euros and the reasons why. So obviously, Rich and Lana, you can deal with France, and Drew, you can give us your thoughts on Germany and maybe touch on Belgium as well, which we'll come into in a second. So, Rich, I'll start with you. So roughly a minute to give me your reasons why France can win it and what they need to do to win it.
Host nation, first off, that is a huge thing. The crowd seem to have sort of come round after a few iffy responses from the fans, perhaps pre-tournament. I think they're now, you know, sort of behind this team. Defense, yeah, I'm not going to make a case of defense because it's still a bit ropey at times. But going forward, there can be no doubting in the quality of the players they have. If they are used to their best, their optimum positions, in that 4-2-4 formation. There's very few teams left in this tournament that can rival them for attacking threat. They have runners from deep. They have Matuidi, who will run all day. They can have Pogba, who, when he's firing on all cylinders, he is a really, really good player. They got Griezmann in the form of his life scoring goals. They got Giroud working incredibly hard for the team. We're combining really, really well with Griezmann. And then you've got Payet, who he's not perhaps had been at his best the last couple of games, but is still capable of creating all sorts of opportunities, scoring all sorts of goals. So I think going forward, that's where France's strengths lie. Set them up in an attacking formation, and I'm relatively confident that they can go all the way.
Nicely done. Confidence there. Drew, let's start you off with Germany. I know you've touched on some of the bits you said there, but what is there anything else that you think you need to change, and the reasons why you think Germany can go all the way?
No, I don't think so. I just think I think that the best balance in an 11 that remains. They have multiple sources of creativity, but different types of creativity. You have someone like Jackson on the wing who can tuck in and be creative with the ball at his feet. You have Toni Kroos who can be creative from deeper areas. You even have Kimmich who can play a good long ball from the right hand side. Same thing with Hector. So you're not just relying on one source for touching off an attacking move. You have a decent center forward who can hold the ball up, but then you have players who have the experience at the highest levels who can always put in performance when it matters. And we haven't even seen the best of Thomas Müller yet. And not his best performance was against Northern Ireland and Gomez's first start. But I just think for me, the team has such great balance, multiple threats. And for me personally, if you look at Neuer, Hummels, and Boateng, that three is the best center back pairing with a keeper in the tournament for me. Bar someone would maybe argue Spain. So for me, I think that's incredibly important moving forward as well. So I just think that back to front, they're the best team available that we would be able to watch, but we'll see if they can keep getting the best from themselves.
Yeah, fair points, well made. Lana, coming back to France again, then your opportunity for a minute or so, just to give us your thoughts on what you think needs to change and the reasons why, if indeed you believe they can still win it.
May I just say I disagree with Drew about their defense and goalkeeper. I mean, Italy is still in the competition, and I mean that back three and Gigi Buffon are obviously the most complete and overall better than all the other teams. So I mean that's a bit Juve bias, but I stick by it. And no, I don't think France will go all the way. We are going to go out, probably, in the semifinal. I do not believe that we will win the Euros. It's not me being negative. I'm just being realistic, looking at the squad and who's, got the mentality to take us all the way. And unfortunately, we don't have anyone. It's sad, but it's just the way it is. So I'm hoping Iceland wins if they get that far.
I think who's it? One of our colleagues, Simon, was saying he put some money on Iceland. So you never know. England will deal with them in a second. And Drew, transitioning into Belgium talk tonight. But I mean, you can incorporate the reasons you think they can win it into some chatter about tonight's game, if you like. They ran out 4-0 winners over Hungary, and they were quite impressive against a limited Hungary side, from what I can gather. And there was a lot of talk that they looked great going forward, but maybe there was just a bit of a concern about the other way. So what did you make of them tonight, and what do you make of their chances? Are they maybe clicking at the right time?
I think there's always going to be a chance that a better team is going to expose Belgium. I've talked a lot about it. The change to bring Thomas Meunier in at right back was the right one, but I'm still not a fan of Jan Vertonghen on the left. I'm also not a fan of Thomas Vermaelen even playing. I mean, I understand why he's in the team, but I don't think he should be starting. And if he is, he shouldn't be starting at center back. You have Vertonghen and Alderweireld just completed, and I know this pains me to say it, obviously, but Spurs had the best defensive record in the Premier League last season because of Vertonghen and Alderweireld, bar Hugo Lloris. So that has to be taken into account. So why would you split them up? And I know that Jordan Lukaku might be inexperienced. If you don't want to play him there as a traditional left back, you play Thomas Vermaelen, who played half his career at Ajax was at left back. So he has experience there. He did it for Arsenal as well. So a little adjustment like that you would see, because Vertonghen, when he's without the ball and when Belgium are defending, his instinct is to tuck in a little more towards the center of defense instead of stay out wide left. And I think that could be a problem against a team who can expose that. So I think Vilmans has to do a little bit of adjustment there. But moving forward, this is what you wanted to see from Belgium. I know that against Italy they were poor, and a lot of that was because Marouane Fellaini was playing just behind Lukaku. I think that was the biggest issue, because you isolated Hazard and De Bruyne on two flanks. But when Hazard and De Bruyne play together and they're free-flowing and they can move into space that each other creates, that's when you see Belgium at their best. And then when you add someone like Yana Krasko or Dries Mertens on the other flank, who are just as good with the ball at their feet, they're direct, you get that sort of, if you look past the striker issue, those three attacking players, they can create something out of nothing consistently. The question now is, can they do it now that they're in form, playing and they're more confident? Can they do it against a side like Italy or Germany? That's the question now. So there's still questions that need to be answered, but on the form of this performance, you can see what they're capable of when they're where they need to be from a mental standpoint. Because I think that's their biggest drawback, is they have a lot of pressure themselves, expectations, people labeling the golden generation, things like that. So if they can move past the sort of mental block that they've had, and that sort of got exacerbated by the Italy result, but they bounced back quite well. We'll see where they go from here, but I wouldn't put them as a favorite. I still think they're probably going to lose for the final. I think they'll still do, a semi-final appearance at the most, but there were some positives, but there's also questions.
Fair enough. Very, very fair and interesting way of summing up. I agree with a lot of that. I want to just ask you all a couple of bits and bobs on a couple of players' performances I picked up on tonight. Rich, I wanted to ask you about Eden Hazard, who sort of has arrived at this tournament on the back of a pretty terrible season for Chelsea, but seems refreshed, seems to be back to the player that you'll remember from his Lille days and indeed his first season at Chelsea. Are his performances at this tournament potentially likely to alert someone of a PSG who have been talked about maybe bringing him back to France, even however much he said he doesn't want to go back to France? Do you think that they might be looking at that now and thinking maybe he's a player they could go after again?
They'll definitely be alerted by it. He was absolutely fantastic tonight. I think what it will do is make Antonio Conte think, you know what, if I can just work on him and get him to reproduce the form of a couple of seasons ago and reproduce what he did tonight for Chelsea, then it's a team you can build around. So it's absolutely a performance like that on a big stage like a European Championships is going to alert PSG as it would alert numerous other teams. So it was great to see him do that, and Chelsea fans will be just thinking, why couldn't he have done that for even half the games last season? And they probably wouldn't have finished anywhere near as badly as they did in the league. I was really, really impressed with him tonight. Scored a really good goal, really working hard for the team. Back to what we know he can produce on the ball, running at players. His movement off the ball as well, which is a real strong point, I feel, of his game. So I was really, really impressed, really glad to see him back to that form. And I think what we're seeing with Belgium is sort of a gradual improvement. And what I think is good for them is they're scoring goals. Goals breed confidence. So, into these sort of round of 16 games, or however we want to label them, to be scoring 4 goals against Hungary, who really didn't deserve to lose 4-0, I didn't think. The first half, I thought Hungary sort of gave as good as they got, helped by 2 or 3 superb saves from Karai. It's a pity we're not going to see him back on. Well, we could see him back on the international stage, but at 40, you perhaps think that's going to be it. But yeah, I think just going back to what Drew was talking about Belgium, it's I can see them getting to the final. It looks like they've got Wales. Is it Wales next match? Quarterfinals?
I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's Wales.
And then potentially Portugal, who have not been impressive in the slightest in the semi-finals. You have to think, well, Belgium are scoring goals. The confidence that breeds through the team. Yes, okay, they may still not be the best at the back, but they're getting by. They're not conceding since that first group game. So, there's a lot I think to feel about Belgium. That what, I was one who 6 months ago was thinking, what, Belgium could win this, and then perhaps a couple of months before the tournament, I was thinking, well, maybe it is a bit. Is it too soon? Is it tournament experience going to count against them? But they've got a number of players who are in form, particularly the Spurs centre backs. You've got Hazard rediscovering his form. So I'd be quietly confident this Belgium side could get to the final.
Interesting, yeah. I think they certainly were a lot of people's choices pre-tournament, so slowly starting to come into play. Lana, what was your thoughts on Michy Batshuayi as well? Because he came on off the bench and scored tonight, and he's been a player that a lot of Belgian supporters have been sort of calling for a bit more of a playing role, and he's been linked with a team close to your heart and Juventus for what, in my opinion, is a very inflated transfer fee for a player who, whilst has carried Marseille on his back for a lot of last season, he still wasn't playing that well, which I know sounds like a weird thing to say. But
it was daylight robbery.
Yeah.
They're actually trying to mug us off. Do they think we're dickheads or something? Like, they mugged us off with Lamina, and which, I got a lot of stick for it because suddenly he was playing a few good games and everyone was like, oh, you don't know anything. Okay, whatever. He was shit for Marseille. He hasn't impressed me that much. He was injured half the season. We were wasting wages on him. Well, we could have gotten someone like, I don't know, certain other Lyon players, but I don't want him anywhere near Juve. His attitude is shit. I hate players like him and their attitude. I mean, yes, I know you can make a case for Tevez and all that, but I don't want him anywhere near Juventus at all. I think that the season that passed, he has regressed, and you could see the way he was playing for Marseille that, Lacazette surpassed him ages ago. So I don't want him. I don't think he's good enough for someone of Juve's stature. He can go to West Ham. I mean, I know they're throwing money at players. But I disagree with Rich on the Hazard thing as well, because Conte has never been a fan of technical players. So I don't think that he would build Chelsea around him. He's more of a, build from the back and onwards. So I think he might go if PSG really splash the money.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because
sorry, I just had a question for Lana on Batshuayi. Do you not think someone like Allegri could sort of get his attitude in the right place?
Obviously, he could, but do I see him getting his attitude in check? No, I don't. Yes, he's still young, but it has nothing to do with my hatred for Marseille. I mean, obviously, I can say Mandanda was the best goalkeeper this season, even if it makes me feel like I want to vomit. But I just don't think he's good enough to be leading the team and taking us far in the Champions League. Not when we just lost Morata and now we're going to replace him with Batshuayi of all people. No, thank you. Lyon wants 45 million. We can offer them 35 and put on Asamoah. And heck, we can even give them Zaza. Just give us Lacazette.
Oh, don't talk to me about Alex. I'll get all excited. One player that I'll be honest doesn't excite me, and I know I'm in a real small group of people on this one. But Drew, you know my thoughts on big Romelu Lukaku, and glancing through social media and whatnot tonight, his performance has come under scrutiny again. A lot of people are saying he looks disinterested, that he wasn't making the sort of runs that a forward should, and he seems to be sort of just hoping it will happen. What was your thoughts on his performance tonight? And are we, when we're talking about 65 million quid, is that grossly over the top?
Most transfer fees these days are grossly over the top, so there's that. But no, you can't argue against his goal record and his age when you look at it from a club standpoint. However, I didn't think he was that great today. Personally, I mean, I thought the 2 goals he scored against Ireland were what you get. And it's funny because most people would say Lukaku is in fact a center forward, which he is. But he's a center forward that scores more goals on a counterattack than he does in possession, and that's the part where you have to question. So, and that's the point we have to question how well is he good with his movement off the ball in tight spaces where he identifies the right run to make for the creative players behind him. I think that's where, in a scenario where still in the first half where Hungary was still trying to sit back and defend a little bit more, he struggled. I think if Hungary played more open, you would have seen a little bit better from him. But that said, the goal Batshuayi scored, Lukaku would have scored if he was there because it's a simple run to the back post after HAZARD made his run down the left-hand flank. So I don't think that changes matters, but I do want to see more from him because I don't think De Bruyne and HAZARD can single-handedly win them this tournament. They need someone who makes the right runs ahead of them, which then opens additional space for them past the space they make for themselves. So I think he has to improve, and yes, the price tag quoted is grossly overrated as well. So
yeah, we'll see where he ends up if indeed he moves.
He's linked to Juve.
Oh, is he? Just another one to add to the collection.
All strikers are linked to Juve.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him back at Chelsea. Now they've got a different manager. I just have this feeling. I may be wrong, but or maybe PSG. Of course, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, somebody with a lot of money. That goes without saying. Before we wrap up, I do just want to have a quick look ahead at tomorrow's games. And just see, because there's just the two of them, luckily. Italy-Spain is probably, well, it is the standout tie. Who are we kidding? What's kind of thoughts, Rich? Just briefly, I'll start with you on this one. Is there a favourite in this game? Because it's a clash of styles, but a clash of two massive nations.
Well, I think the favourite I think most people would suggest on paper is Spain. I don't go with that. I would go with Italy actually getting the win in this game. I think they've probably been one of the more impressive sides. Kind of let it slip in the final group game, but they didn't need anything in that final group game. Word of caution, though, is I know a lot of players were rested in that game, but losing that final group game, does that just drop the sort of momentum? I don't know. But I do feel that Italy will be able to get the result in this game. I don't think it's going to be a very pretty game. I think it's going to be very tight. I think it could get a little bit tasty, as they say, on the red card front, I think, with a few of the players that are involved. I don't think we're going to see 22 players on the pitch come the end of it, but I think Italy will get it just, I think, on the basis of I think they do have a slightly better defence, which I think will just give them the edge.
Interesting. Yes, it's going to be.
If that doesn't make Lana happy, I don't know what will.
I know.
well, go on, Lana. Let's have your thoughts on particularly Italy. Then, do you think that they've got what it takes to blunt the Spanish?
I think so. I think, as Rich mentioned, that back three and Buffon. I mean, going into this tournament, how many teams could say that their back three and goalkeeper are playing together consistently every week throughout the season? No one can. And I think that's what will benefit them. And that's also what Conte has built not necessarily the success, but the winning mentality on. It starts from the back. And they don't have a pretty team, they don't have Verratti, they don't have Marchisio, no Pirlo. But I think they will win. And as Rich said, I'm thinking Chiellini will get a red card, maybe Piqué, because, Chiellini is a bit of a hothead, so we'll see. But I do think that Italy will win the game. I hope so, anyway.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. And Drew, in the absence of Tom talking the Spanish up, can you make a case for them coming out victorious in this one? And if so, what do they have to do?
What they need to do is they need to not try to play football that's too pretty. I know it's tough for them, but you see it when a lot of the pundits were talking about how they always try to walk the ball in the net, and as Arsenal fans, we know that better than anybody almost. But they need to not be afraid to play early balls into the box. Because if you give the Italians potentially a different ball to worry about into the area, that might just draw somebody out, and that might give someone like an Iniesta or a David Silva that just little bit of space to make something that maybe Spain needs. Because if they make it too easy for Italy to sit back and defend, as they're so good at doing, and as they have been that good at doing for half a century, Spain won't win. So they have to somehow find a way around that defensive solidarity that makes Italy, for me, I think the favorite in this match, because I think if you can defend staunchly with a defensive bank and a solid midfield bank, I think possession football won't win it. So Spain has to come up with something different for me personally if they're going to want to win.
Agreed. It'll be a big occasion. Whether it'll be a good game or not is debatable.
They have to win. Italy have to win just to, wipe that smug off Fabregas's face.
Good old Sask.
Did you see what he said? We have bigger balls than Italy. Okay, fine. No need to flesh your balls here to, prove anything. But I hate that guy.
There's your team talk right there, isn't there? That is your team talk for the opposition. Pin that up in the dressing room and away you go.
He's such a snake.
What's your guys' thoughts? And we will be brief on this one, but England, Iceland doesn't exactly sort of reek of glamour, but nevertheless, it could be intriguing. Drew, I'll start with you on this one. Do you think England win this comfortably, or is this going to be another painful 90 minutes of hiding behind the sofa for English fans?
I don't think they'll win comfortably. I mean, they have every chance to win, but England struggle breaking down teams who defend in two banks of four, and we've seen that from them for a very long time in tournament football. Iceland won't make it easy. They're one of the better teams at keeping their shape at the back. They don't give up a lot of space for chances to be created, and they're decent at playing the smart ball into the right space when they spring on a counter, and England can be guilty of letting teams in behind. So on the back of who has better quality, you'd have to say England, but Hodgson's got to get his tactics and his 11 are key. If you're looking at someone like if Rooney doesn't start, I'm not a big advocate of playing Rooney midfield, but he's probably the most creative option England have as a midfielder. He's not really a midfielder, but I still think you have to play players who are going to be creative enough to be able to break down that staunch defensive system that Iceland have become so successful with. So if they do that, I think they'll be okay, but you can't count Iceland out by any means. I think it'll be close regardless.
Yeah, I foresee a long drawn out kind of painful result possibly. But I'll just get your quick views on this one as well, Rich, just because I know obviously being an Englishman as well. Do you think I can see this being like a gritty 1-0, but then there seems to be two schools of thought, like Drew was saying, either comfortable or painful slog. Are you in the same camp as Drew, or do you think it'll be a bit tighter?
I think it will be a gritty 1-0 win, but I think it'll be a gritty 1-0 win to Iceland.
Wow. I
have gone on record on numerous predictions that I think, I do think Iceland could win this. It'll be another one of their classic small mentality performances of backs to the wall. I'm kidding there. No, I genuinely think Iceland could win this. It's England. When was the last time England have been a joy to watch in an international tournament? It's what a group game in 1996. I think was probably
Holland. Yeah,
it feels like the last time it was a joy to watch England play free-flowing football. So I don't see them winning this. This for me has got a 1-0 Iceland win written all over it.
Interesting. If that happens, then I will be.
So it's going to finish 3-0 England.
Yeah, of course you know it. You know it's going to happen now, don't you? No, I can see your points, and you make a good case for it. So, and speaking of making a case, we will wrap up as we always do, or have done throughout this tournament, with Hipster's choices of the day, where of course I will adjudicate which one I'm going to go for. So. Lana, who is your player of the 3 games today? Was there one player that stood out head and shoulders above the rest for you?
Griezmann.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
I wanted to say Pogba, but I have a feeling that Rich would have just be like, "Oh, typical Juve bias."
Fair enough. So there's 1 vote in the French camp. Is that 2 votes now, Rich? Are you going to go the same?
I'm not. No, Hazard.
Aha.
He was brilliant. And the performance that Belgium needed right at the right time.
There's the League One bias.
Very good.
Sue me.
And Drew, are you gonna buck the trend and go German, or are you gonna go with French or Belgian?
No, it's Hazard. I think that's the best single performance we've seen at the Euros to date this tournament. So it has to be Hazard.
Yeah, I 2 votes to 1, Lana. I'm going to have to go with the boys on this one, I'm afraid.
You guys are just against short people. That's
Hey,
the only solution.
Hazard's about 5'8". He's pretty short.
Yeah, but Griezmann is shorter.
I'm only 5'6", so I hope they're not against short people because I'm out of a job if that's the case. But no, I have to say it's close because Griezmann was superb, and without him, I think France would be looking at an exit right now. So fair play. But yeah, I'm going to have to give it to Hazard on this, and a cheeky nod to Julian Draxler as well, who I thought was exceptional today for Germany. And social media being what it is, he will now be linked with approximately 3,484 clubs by the morning. So good luck reading that on your timelines.
Can I just make one final shout out actually to Giroud, because that was the most typical French performance from him today. wonderful assist for Griezmann's goal, and then blocks a Griezmann free kick while he was kneeling on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Did you see that when he took the free kick? He just fell down.
If you haven't seen it already, look up a Vine. I think I retweeted it earlier on this afternoon. It's basically a guy who's superimposed a sniper taking out Giroud on the end of the wall. It's well worth a look. It's quite bizarre that, but yes, as an Arsenal fan, I can completely agree with what you both said there. It is the good and the bad of Olivier all in one day, but
you gotta love him though.
Oh, I do love him. I always stick up for him when all of our fans go off on one, so God bless him.
Oh, I don't, but I stick up for him for France. I hate him for Arsenal, but for some reason he plays better than Benzema in that Benzema system.
True that. Yeah, I wonder what he's doing with his time right now. Sat with his feet up. Anyway, right, well, that'll do us for today then. A slightly extended version of tonight's podcast. Plenty to say, so we wanted to cram it all in, and we got the exclusive of getting two battlers in the French corner together on a podcast. So I thank you very much to both Lana and to Rich, and of course to Drew for being as good as he always is. So thank you to all three of you.
Thank you. No, it's great.
Lana's ready
Thank
for bed,
you.
so.
Oh no! I was looking at a tweet. That's all. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure, no problem at all. And our thanks as always to all of our listeners for tuning in. And obviously keep yourselves locked. We'll be across all the games. We'll be back tomorrow with coverage of the Italy, Spain, and England, Iceland games. Not sure what time yet, because of course they could go to extra time. So stick close to our timeline. As soon as we've recorded, we'll have our podcast posted. Keep tuned, and as we always say, keep your pipes stoked and your satchel clean. And we will speak to you tomorrow.
Now it drops for Fabregas, who looks for Iniesta, who's onside! Spain score!
Hazard. Well, he is a match winner. Is this the moment? It is! Divock Origi! There, and now Killer. And they now have the breakthrough. Bale. It's a great effort! Oh my word, what a goal!